to have this connection.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was really pumped to come across your page. It seems like you're very into a lot of things that I'm interested in, or where my curiosity has been piqued as of late.
Oh, great. That's awesome. That's awesome. So I'm so excited to have this conversation. I thought those questions that you had sent me over were pretty awesome, and I'm excited to talk about them.
Oh, glad. I'm awesome. Yeah. Great. Okay. So, shall we get right into it? I'd like to be respectful of your time here.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Okay. Actually, before we do you have any questions for me or about anything that I'm doing with all of this?
No, not really. I mean, I think that you and I had a really good, quick, precursor information. Like you had given me what you and your platform are about, and I'm really excited to be a contributor to that today. So yeah,
Oh,
it's
that's amazing. Thank
excited.
you for that. I appreciate that. I really do. So maybe to start then, Sienna, we'll start with what your metaphysical shop looks like. I love that. I love that word. Like when I hear
Yeah,
metaphysical, I'm like, what is that? Like, what's going on inside of there?
right. So I call my storefront, which is in Chester, New York, a metaphysical shop because metaphysics, it means the experience of understanding things that you don't know, that you can't see, that, like there's so many perspectives when it comes to the metaphysical. So my job as the owner and the proprietor of that space is to really welcome all people of all walks of life in there and be whatever type of vibe they're about and bring that together. Also, I have a lot of amazing tools from different types of um, ways of thinking. I teach different waves of consciousness and tools to, pretty much break you out of your shell, like astrology, the understanding of that, and crystals, and all the fun things that we're all seeing here today. I have been trained in phrenology, which is a lost art. It's the study of the bumps on your head. So, like there's so many
Mm.
different tools and connections that I have at Demure Life, your favorite metaphysical store.
Yeah, awesome. That's so cool. So you bring in a wide range of different ancient strategies, correct?
Yes,
Ancient being a
yes,
key word.
absolutely. Ancient strategies in many different forms, not just my own. I myself, I am Ramapo Lenape, and that is a Native American tribe here in that's local to New York, New Jersey area, and pretty much the tri-state. That's my tribe. I myself teach and train in other modalities. I just don't train in my own because it's sacred. It's a sacred art to me. That's how I use my healing and things like that. But absolutely, I have been trained in other modalities like Reiki, which is from Japan. I study Buddhism. I study so many Taoism. There's so many different structures of consciousness, and there's many ancient scribes and so many beautiful things that are coming out right now and being shared. So I tap into all of those that are available. Even like ancient Egypt, the
Mm.
ancient Romans, the ancient Greeks. There's so many different perspectives, and I think that they were really all trying to say one thing. So that's pretty much what I lead with is consciousness, elevation, self healing, self sovereignty. That's all based off of many different beliefs, and no belief is wrong or right. It's the way you perceive it. So that's what I like to show and share in my space.
Uh, Thank you for that. That's so cool that you're looking into all walks of life, not just saying sticking to just Buddhism or just Taoism.
Right, right.
And so just to synthesize this for myself, so you're saying that the one common theme that all of these ancient traditions have is that they're all trying to help us improve our self-sovereignty, our elevating our consciousness. Is that
Right.
what you're saying?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's, you know, and not to get all religious or anything, but there is the energy. There's only one true God. I'm sure you've heard that term, before. But that really is consciousness. That's God consciousness. We're speaking about God consciousness, right? So there's that in every religion, every understanding, every walk that you take. There's God consciousness in there, and they're all trying to tell you the same thing: is to do your best and lead with that. Be and have integrity. Lead with that. That those are things
Right.
that God consciousness embodies. So I teach all forms, all things that I find, you know, that I've taken a little piece of. I like different pieces of different cultures because
Yeah.
that's what makes the fabric of me being a human, not just, my ethnicity. That's me being a human.
Right. Okay. So how have you found, speaking of your ethnicity, how have you found the process of detaching from Sienna Samuels, black woman, lives in New York. How did you like? Have you like detached from that, like, or do you have non-attachment to it? Like, what does that relationship between attaching to those identifications look like for you?
I like that question. Thank you. I do want to correct you. I do not consider myself a black woman. I don't call
Okay.
myself a black woman. I call myself an indigenous woman because I am a Negro indigenous woman. I don't use the term black because black is a color, and black is also that denotes light, that does not take light in. So I am not black. I am a Negro indigenous woman. So
Okay.
going forward, um, like detaching from that, there's no detachment because, I don't necessarily detach from my ethnicity ever because I walk in, I am identified by people in this space, in this time, as a Negro indigenous woman. You know,
Okay.
that's what I'm looked at as first. And my goal as that in the world is for me to share that and embody that as an archetypal. This is what I believe, this is who I am. And if you would like to emulate that energy, if you would like to recognize my light, understand that it's in within you as well. So I lead with that. But my work, I work very strongly with my own community of ethnic people. But I have people from all walks of life, as clients and friends and students, um, and the like. I have many, many different people that connect to me. I think that just identifying, breaking down the fear around the conversation of color, and ethnicity, it's just being there and being like, yeah, this is who I am, but this is who I this, and it
Okay.
doesn't necessarily mean that they're disconnected. I think that being a Negro Indigenous woman empowers me to do my work because it's that of my lineage. So I
Oh,
don't I don't
okay.
disconnect it at all. At all. I actually embrace it even stronger. But that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm like, oh, you can't do what I can because I'm Negro Indigenous and you're not.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
like
yeah.
that's the way I would look at it.
Okay.
That makes
Okay,
sense.
yeah. I was just wondering, and sorry for
No,
the
no,
mis.
no. It's you wouldn't have known that, and that you share that, and I didn't take offense. I'm just sharing because a lot of people don't know that, and a lot of people take on titles and discuss, like, call themselves terms because that's what is um a, like commonly accepted. But for somebody to give someone else a title without them receiving it, I just wanted to make that a
Ah,
statement
yes.
because I don't consider myself that. But and there's no fault to you on that. And I really want you to know that I wasn't offended, but that was just a coaching in the moment, in the sense of, I don't take that title. You call me that, but I'm not that, you know?
Okay, yes, I understand. Well, thank you for the correction. Um, so to move on, what healing method would you recommend the most for somebody when they're trying to open up their shadow side, when they're trying to integrate some pieces of ourselves that we may have chosen not to identify with, but they're actually true to our nature? How would one start to open up that side of ourselves?
Mm. See, I think that we are forced into doing that right now with this
Aha,
whole
okay.
coronavirus pandemic and energy that's like, stay quarantined, stay in your home, stay, away from other people. This is the best and most viable time to harvest that shadow work and get it done. It's like,
Mm,
it's the best time to do it, because you are isolated. You're isolated in this spectrum of uncertainty, and that's really the best way to invoke your shadow self, to heal it. Because one of my favorite rappers of all time, Jay-Z, says, you can't heal what you don't reveal. That's the
mm,
biggest thing in this world. And the thing is we hide behind so much, as people, as person to person, like,
right.
so now we're really being held accountable for our own selves, and being forced into the corner to think about what we've done and what we need to do. So I think that right is prime viable energy to harvest that, and
Sure.
get that done. Yeah, isolation is good for the soul.
So what would that look like for somebody that wants to open up their shadow side a little bit, or just to learn more about themselves? Because for me, when I first started practicing introspection, or even just like reflection, like writing down how I felt, I had no idea what a shadow side was. I didn't know it was down there. So how does one start to open up this side of them? This like to How does one become more aware of what's in the depths of their being? Like, would you say stillness, silence? Like, are there some practices that you could give us that we could try?
Absolutely. So, one of the things that I teach a lot of my students in energy sensing, shadow self work, and light bringing is, accessing your light is most important when it comes to understanding your darkness and your shadow self. Is understanding
Mm,
how to get to that light and how to always invoke it. So, just like you would hypothetically know bad vibes, you would know good vibes too, right?
right.
So when you think about that, in like, you really want to focus on all the things that you fear, all the things that you are conscious of or subconscious of, that make you uncomfortable, things that, you know looking at relationships, even like friendships and, connections, people that trigger you. Look at those triggers and don't always point the finger. Always point it back and say, well, why did that bother me? Question yourself and question somebody else, and don't be passive aggressive with those things. Don't say, things hoping for, a response in a different way. You just have to get out and say what made you uncomfortable, and
See,
make no apology for it. Absolutely no apologies. There's people, I've lost many, many, many people throughout my years by invoking boundaries, by invoking my truth, and saying things that people, have made me feel uncomfortable about, and making myself clear on that, and making no apology for it, and not uh, backpedaling on it either. And a lot of people confuse that with aggression, but it's you know being assertive in your energy. And I think
mm,
shadow energy is assertive, right? So you need to understand how to define your shadow self too, because shadow energy is assertive and light energy is more so, I wouldn't want to necessarily call it passive, but it's more kind. It's more calming, you know? So understanding the things that trigger you and making specific declarations about them and being unapologetic about it is the way to open it up, in my opinion, because you can't heal what you don't reveal.
Gotcha. Okay. That's great. I love that by Jay-Z, by the way. You can't heal what you don't reveal. Like, how could you fix something if you don't know it's there, right? So that
Right.
makes a
Right.
lot of sense. Um, so that's interesting that you say shadow energy is assertive and light energy is more kind, easygoing. So like when I'm thinking of shadow energy is assertive, like does that mean like I'm walking past somebody and something, some emotion, some lower level emotion, let's say, gets arisen in me, and that's how we know that it's my shadow. Like the classic Eckhart Tolle saying, "What we react to strongly in others is present within us," like pointing the finger back, just like you're
Absolutely.
saying. So,
Absolutely. I love Eckhart Tolle. And that is exactly one of my favorite quotes, too, is, whatever is present in somebody else and makes us uncomfortable is absolutely within us to identify it. Because how are we to identify what we don't know? Like,
exactly right,
you know,
yeah, yeah.
like we,
Like how
like
do we
that.
even know to react? Like how do we?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Like there's somebody, like, I'll give a quick example. Like there's someone that I have a connection to. She happens to be a good friend of mine, and she frustrates me at points, and I'm like, girl, what are you doing? And then I'm like, oh, that's because I went through that, and that's why I'm getting so triggered and annoyed with you about this. It's because I've been there and I'm telling you what to do and you're not listening. And those are the connections that we need to pay attention to, because you think you're done with it until it comes back in your face to really prove the point. Are you done with it? Because that person wouldn't necessarily be triggering you anymore. You would identify in light energy, not your shadow energy. You would be like,
I
oh
see.
wow, I'm really feeling that, and I really understand where you're coming from, instead of like, girl, get your stuff together. Like, there would be there's two different ways of replying, and that's replying in light and replying in shadow. So
Yeah.
it's, you're triggered by your shadow. And I say the shadow is aggressive because triggers are aggressive and they're assertive. Like that feeling, it's visceral, it's in you, so you feel it as an aggressive, assertive energy. And that's why I say that it's invoked by that. So identifying things and saying it right out the bat that it bothers you, instead of allowing it to stick to your spirit like tar, then that's it. Be
Yeah.
If you want to be of light, you have to understand your dark, and if you want to be of service, you have to understand that. But that's not to say that we as healers still don't get triggered at points, but that is the gift that we are, to identify those pieces that we need to still put back together ourselves.
So what does integration look like?
I think integration for me, like personally, because I can only speak from my own perspective in that space, but integration for me was really dropping ego and thinking that I knew everything, and
Mm.
that's a hard place to be for a Virgo, let me tell you, because I think I often know many things, and
Yeah.
when I had to let go of the fact that I don't know everything and I'm still teachable, that's when my shadow energy came up. And I was like, oh, but I do know everything. And I tried to, like, you know, debunk my own stuff, and I'm like, what am I
Oh,
doing?
oh,
And,
okay.
like just falling into a space of acceptance and acknowledgement, I think, are huge core components of integration. Um, you know, in understanding that you can't change who you are, you could only change how you react. So
Mm.
I think that's a really big part of integrating. It's like, I know who I am, right? Like every day I wake up and I'm the same person. I brush my teeth, wash my face, take a shower, same way every single day, right? But
Yes.
like that's just who I am. Like, and my mother's who my mother was, my father's who my father is, siblings, that those are in those people, not in my particular life per se, but in general, those people, those relationships, connections, they really, they formulate who you are, and as a person. So, looking at your shadow work is really in the crux of your family, like of looking at your triggers there and before you can even step out to help others.
Yeah, yeah. So like, yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense. Is like kind of know yourself before you can help others. So I'm interested to dive a little bit deeper into what you said is that you can't change who you are, you can only change how you react.
Right.
That's interesting to me. So what do you mean you can't change who you are? Like, do you mean like at the core of your being, or do you mean like
Right.
personality traits? Like,
Right. The core of your being and your personality. You can't change your personality. I don't care who says you can. You can change the way you react. You could change, like, for instance, there's a lot of things that I disagree in the world with right now, right? And I
mm,
won't go into, like my own politics and stuff like that, but there's things that I strongly disagree with in the world. And 5 years ago, I would have been like, oh, speaking, posting constantly in your face, trying to ram my opinion down your throat.
right, yeah,
But
yeah.
the thing is 5 years present, I'm not that person. And I still have those same views, those same exact views, and same thoughts, same feelings. But I don't engage with others that don't agree or don't align with that, because I know that it's not going to be a productive communication or build. So
Okay.
like I just avoid those types of connections.
Okay. All right. Um, so you can change how you react. So how would somebody change how they like say for example they snap back at their sibling or their friend for like a really small thing that gets arisen in their ego. So how would one change how they react? Would they start by cultivating an awareness of that emotion and then sitting with that emotion and then like like, what would be the process of them changing how they react to something more ideal for them?
Right. So like as an example, um let's say I have a sister, right? And my sister happens to be somebody who is very aggressive, very hard to talk to, shuts you down, like when expressing, any type of thing, like it's always an oppositional thing, right?
Right, sure.
And like for instance, uh if I now have that opposition towards my own sister, I cannot be a friend or a sister to another woman until I heal that connection. Do you
Okay.
understand that? Do you
Yep, yep.
understand what I mean?
I'm
So
with
what I'm saying is for me to identify and really really heal that, so I can react differently in the world, I would have to go to the source of the issue. So
Okay,
so
gotcha.
you would have to, so like if you find yourself being triggered by somebody outside of you, like a friend or a neighbor or whatever, and you're like, oh, she really is pissing me off because she reminds me of my sister, like my sister does that, I hate that, and that's always, you think about it, anytime somebody irritates you or you feel triggered, you immediately, as human condition, we're conditioned to compare, right? So it's like our frustrations, if you really just listen to your center of self, you're going to hear why you're mad. Oh, that really got me mad because it reminds me of blah. There's your issue. That's what you attack. That's what you identify with. That's what you feel.
Mm. Going to the source of the issue and like tracing it back. So I would imagine like what I keep getting told is that most of our inclinations to experience anger or jealousy, emotions in that realm, let's call it, stem from our child.
Right.
So,
Always, always. Your formative years of being a human is between 0 and 7. You know, like the way
right.
you are going to be as a person is cemented in that time. And that's why I'm so strong about healing the family dynamic and really
Oh,
clearing that, because and cultivating your children is hugely important, you know, like really taking heed to who they are as people and not shutting them down and really letting them express their thoughts, you know, um, because it's very hard to regain that as an adult.
yeah. So how do we trace something back to our childhood? Like I don't know about some, like I know some people have really good memories, but like I don't remember a whole lot from 0 to 7. And so like how would I, or maybe I've just repressed it away. Like how would I access like a memory or a feeling from my childhood and kind of get to the root of the matter and to start healing it?
I would definitely say arrive at that. um you know, you'll arrive at each trigger. I think that a lot of people have this thought that they could heal everything at once and be done, and that's not the truth. So,
Mm.
you know, like each trigger is going to kind of arrive to you when it's needed to come up, you know? Like, so
Yeah.
there's many things throughout my life that I've healed, um, you know, like through the course of my life. It wasn't just like one day I woke up and it was like, oh, Sienna Samuels is a-okay. Like, nah, that was never the case. You know, like that was never the case, you know. It was
Yeah.
like, you know, no, I had definitely had to identify who I was, um, as a person in each moment. And I think that, you know, well, there's many beliefs out there, you know, and there are different arenas where in thought circles that, you know, people believe that you die every 7 years. You know, your body regenerates every 7 years. I'm sure you've heard that part. But there's
Yeah, I
like,
have.
they're saying that like the spirit dies every 7 years. And, you know, like for you to kind of trace that back maybe every 7 years throughout your life and kind of see where that is, like almost like your internal calendar, you know? So you would kind of go back 7 years from your present age and see, you know, like what you were doing, kind of meditate on that and kind of bring up those feelings and kind of see how, if those triggers and those uncomfortable levels still arrive, you know, for you. Because when I meditate back to childhood, I had nothing but good memories. And now as an adult, you know, I am like, wow, I had a really amazing childhood, but I did not feel like that when I was in my teen years. I did not feel like that when I was in my 20s, you know, like, but I now, as like somebody in my, you know, mid 30s, I'm like, wow, that childhood was amazing. Look what I did here and look what I did there, because those triggers, I've healed them. They don't come up
Mm.
the same. So it's about reflective energy.
Reflective energy. Is that what you said?
Yes.
What is reflective energy?
Having the ability to go back and reflect on your life, you know, and look at it as an internal timeline calendar, you know. And
Oh, okay.
I would, you know, like me personally, I would invoke the Aquarian energy that we're currently in, um, which is Saturn in Aquarius energy. That transit just actually happened on the 21st of March. So right now, that, you know, that's really kind of pushing that energy, like your rules, your dedications, you know, and it's asking you to have freedom and expression, being in Aquarius. But like the beauty of that is Aquarius is actually like the sign of like the timeline traveler, you know, like the
Mm.
time traveler in a sense, where they can bring information from the past to the present and from the future to the present to align timelines. So like as a quick example of that, you know, kind of off topic, well, very
Yep,
much
yep.
off topic, um, but as an example, we're as humans, we're experiencing that energy now with the coronavirus being the way it is because, like Saturn and Aquarius is the timeline hopper, like I had said. So this is bringing information like from like past plagues, flu, influenza, Spanish flu. That's bringing that experience of like quarantine to this present timeline, and we're having to move forward with Saturn being in Aquarius, and like saying like, hey, we have to express ourselves and do it differently, so like we're bringing that future perspective to this current timeline. So it's like, that's an
Okay.
example of Saturn and Aquarius energy. So that could be helpful and reflective energy at this present time.
Yeah, okay, very cool. I never thought of it like that. So what could somebody do then to I'm really really curious to know like what this all looks like. Like what does it look like physically for somebody to use these energies, to use even like a Reiki technique or a crystal? Like what are some, like the last question I'd like to ask you is like what are some very very simple ways to get started with healing oneself to become more in tune with our body, like because for me like this all seems to boil down into like a grand awareness of ourself, of our true self. And so like
Right.
I would love to cultivate that within myself, and I would love to be able to teach that to others, or for you to share that with others right now. Like how can we really begin, like some techniques, some strategies, like how can we start to open ourselves up a little bit?
Okay, so like I said, with the Aquarian energy right now, free expression, authenticity, and I think that kind of stems back to what I was saying initially about, you know, being unapologetic in your boundaries and being unapologetic in things, like, and kind of bringing that forward and just saying, like, this is who I am, and making no apology about it. Because a lot of us kind of recant our energy when it comes out too strong, so
Right.
like being
Okay.
comfortable with who you are is the first marker of ability to help others, um, and help others be themselves, because the thing is we're walking mirrors, and the thing is we identify with what we associate with, so like surrounding yourself with people that are in alignment of thought, that is another great technique. Reiki, absolutely bringing the universal light energy into your body to share it with yourself and others, that's an amazing technique to do. And that's something that I train and certify in as well. um, but also there's just, crystals. I mean, I like crystals. Crystals are pretty, and you'll in many interviews I've done, and connections I've made, I'll speak very very abruptly about it. I mean, I myself am a crystal healer, certified, but I don't necessarily fully buy into the whole crystal craze myself, and that's the truth. So it's gonna look different for every single person out there. I love crystals. I think they're pretty, and I identify with the energy and the intentions. But to actually, for me to tell somebody to go buy a crystal to invoke their healing, that's never going to be said from me, because of the fact that I feel like the true healing is universal healing, and universal healing is outside in nature as an element, and that's where those crystals come from. So if you really want to truly identify with who you are and getting out into sharing that, and invoking who you are, get outside and meditate at this time, especially now that we're
Mm.
quarantined and cooped up in the house. um really be available for those light codes to come through, and try to, it's cold, you could bundle up. I'm here in New York, but I plan to definitely bundle up and go outside and just get some fresh air, because oxygen feeds the spirit, air feeds the spirit. So that's another big
Yeah.
focus that I tell a lot of my students and clients is to, get outside. That's the biggest part of invoking your true self, is being a part of the universal energy that
Mm.
is that we all want to be a part of. And that's the best way to do it, is getting outside, not into stores, not into place, but go outside, sit in the park by yourself, enjoy, and just be okay with your own company.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I really love that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, those are all the questions that I have for you, Sienna. I really appreciate you taking the time. It was nice to learn a few new tactics as always. I hope someone actually tries one of these, because it's one thing to listen to it, but then it's another thing to try it and to be curious, to get to know ourselves a little bit more. So I hope you helped us with that today.
Thank
But
you
yeah, anyway,
so
just
much.
thank you so much. Yeah. Yeah, this was
Thank
awesome.
you. So, you could find me at Demure Life on Instagram. You could also find me at Demure Life on Facebook. You can find me at demurelife.com. And I have a YouTube channel, and it's Demure Life. And that's DEMURE space LYFE. So thank you so much.
Awesome.
It
Awesome.
was so
Yeah.
great to
di-
connect and
yeah,
share.
Yes, yes, connect and share. Those are two awesome words. If you want to connect with Sienna, like I'll leave all the links she just mentioned below on the podcast you're listening to right now. So it'll be easy access. You guys check it out.